Hello, chat and viewers, since this is technically YouTube. Today is October 13th, 2020, and today we're doing government and social media. This has been the longest year in the last week.
But
it's only going to get weirder.
It is the longest year, but amazingly, you are running out of year. And probably, I imagine that most of you, because of the general melees and, the upheaval, you haven't accomplished all of your tech goals. And it's time to do that.
Is it time to do that?
Insert advertisement.
Oh, yeah. Linode. Linode.
Right.
Yes, Linode has partnered with us for Devember. It's not December. Like, usually we do Devember and December. It's October. We know.
It's like Christmas in July.
What
we started it early.
Yeah, well, you sign up with Linode, and your credits are only just now going to run out, toward the end of the holiday season, which is really the best scenario. Now, Linode has a huge number of tutorials they're putting together. I really like what they're doing with the marketing approach, because instead of spending their marketing dollars on, nonsense backwater YouTube channels for advertising, they're actually spending most of their money putting together these amazing tutorials. We put together one on WireGuard that was better than the one they had. And so you should check that out. Sign up for Linode. Use our affiliate link below. You get a couple of bucks. We get a couple of bucks. It's pretty awesome.
And you want to get started now because there is that big question mark hanging over November.
A massive question mark, as it turns out.
We're going to assume that you're going to survive into 2021, and you're going to need some job skills that are going to be in demand. Oh, they just got SSL working. So they got their S3 compatible, their S3 API compatible thing going now with Vanity SSL certificates. So if you want to be like bucket.yourdomain.tech, you can do that with SSL. That's great. On with the news.
So one case that's been going on for a long time, and a lot of United States dollars are riding on this one.
Man.
This is a big, big dollar sign.
Oh, I'm getting heart palpitations.
It is Google versus Oracle. Now, this is the old API case, and it warms my heart to know that a group of people who probably couldn't program a DVR if you put a gun to their head are deciding this issue.
Oh, Bloomberg. Their headline is Google gets mixed reception in Supreme Court clash with Oracle. So I read the transcript for most of this, and it is incredibly horrifying. Most of the Supreme Court justices apparently don't understand anything at all about technology.
Did you expect them to?
Literally, no. I mean, it's worse than I could have expected.
It didn't surprise me. I read those excerpts as well, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty...
What I expected.
Yeah. But the other thing about it is, the thing that bothers me is that because this is a copyright case, most of the worst tech, not the tech companies, but all the worst companies like the MPAA and the music people and the ISPs, everybody like that are hard lobbying to go with Oracle because they see this as a copyright win.
Yeah, the White House is behind Oracle as well, but Oracle, a lot of their arguments are disingenuous, and assuming that their arguments are not as disingenuous as they appear to be on their face, having the Java API published in such a way as they do that you couldn't adopt that and use it as part of something like Android or another product, that seems like a deliberate copyright trap. Like, you would wander into that thinking that you would be able to use that because you could. And then it's like, no, you're making money. You owe Oracle money. It's like,
also, did you see the analogies they made?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Like the safe cracking analogy was, yeah.
It's something else. It's quite a read if you want to take a hate nap later. Get your blood pressure up.
No, my new favorite word for 2020, new slang word, is doom scrolling. Where you just scroll through, news sites and social media, and you just see how screwed we really are.
Isn't that the mainstream media all the time, though? I mean, they've stepped it up, of course.
Yeah, it's really stepped up.
I really hope one of the judges from the lower court, like Judge Alsup, the one that was actually tried to learn programming and do a little bit of programming, I really hope he's got at least one of the justices on speed dial and can call him and be like, no, you guys are getting the details wrong. They need to even look at the history of computer science. They need to look at the Bell Lab systems and in Unix in the 60s. They need to start there and just have a basic history lesson to really understand this.
They're never going to do that.
They're never going to do that. And that means it's going to go in Oracle's favor. It's going to be a dark day for all of this.
The Google attorney argued, it's like, if you rule for Oracle on this, you're going to change everything. Not just about the mobile phone environment, but everything. And they were just like, well.
Yeah, they didn't. It was like, oh, you're just saying that because you're an attorney. And it's like, no.
You kids and your flip phones. Last week we heard that Donald Trump had released the hounds on the big tech companies, and there's a lot of talk of antitrust. This week we hear from the Democrats. These guys had a lot of really scathing quotes about each company. They kind of went down the list and just blasted them. But when it comes to their actual plan of what to do about it, it's a little, I don't know, it's kind of vaporish.
Wasn't my read of it wasn't vaporish. My read of it was, how are you going to help us so that we leave you alone?
Yeah. Ephemeral, is that how you pronounce that word?
Yeah.
Because it's a big plan that's like, well, okay, when are we going to do that? And they're like,
House Democrats tackle big tech, quote-unquote, monopolies, according to Axios. I don't know. I haven't really seen anybody come up with a good plan for dealing with this kind of stuff. But no, scroll down to the Google one, because the Google one is really important when we talk about it in the context of...
Yeah, I guess we'll do it the other way around. So these are the quotes about the companies.
So Google, the search engine, has a monopoly in the general online blah, blah, blah. But Apple... The report says that Apple exerts monopoly power over software distribution to more than half of mobile devices in the U.S. It accuses the company of exploiting rivals by levying commissions and fees for copying apps and blah, blah, blah. Those two in particular I want to talk about because Apple, we get the whole Epic versus Epic thing. Like, that is a criticism. That is the same argument that Epic is making. That is part of their legal case. And then Google has the same sort of bad thing going for it. But Google has said they're going to make it easier for companies like Epic to offer their own app store, which sort of does away with that. But that's not really part of the complaint specifically against Google.
Well, I think they found the strongest negative item about each company and sort of showcased that. I mean, these are great sound bites. They sound strong. And then this is like what they're going to do about it. And it's kind of some common sense stuff, but there's no real concrete details of when or how this happens.
I want to call out specifically blocking online platforms from giving themselves preferential treatment or playing favorites with other content providers. In the case of Apple, the only fix there is to allow third-party app stores. In the case of Google's already done that in the EU with their search engine, but it was that unintended consequences thing we were talking about last week where they had an auction and they were like, all right, whoever gives us the most money can be the top search engine. And Google gave them the most money. But search engines like DuckDuckGo, because they don't make bathtubs of cash off of user data, they're not going to be able to bid bathtubs of cash to be the top search engine spot.
They'd be lucky to get just like a small half bath basin.
Yeah, I mean, like one of those uncomfortably small turn of the century sinks where you would only bathe once a week, and that's all you needed.
Once a year. We had the presidential and vice presidential debates so far. They were, I guess, the worst in history, we could probably say.
That's fair.
If debates are supposed to be an intellectual exercise, that was WWE.
But if they were just supposed to stir up the people, 10 out of 10, right? Well, we all know that Trump had a little bit of a health scare there. He seems to have powered through it. And because of that, the debate council made some decisions. They were like, you know what? This is a stupid risk. We have the technology, but he says no.
Reuters has the article that says, Trump says he will not do a virtual debate. I don't know why they needed to go on for 4 more paragraphs.
It was a pretty short article, to be fair. I mean, they only got 2 in a line.
This is cut down from what he said, but
he basically thinks that he won. And he won because that was a good format for him. So why would he change it up?
Okay.
We've done one virtual debate before for presidents, and I think it was JFK and Nixon back in 1960, maybe. So there is a precedent.
How did that go?
It was fine. I actually watched part of it on YouTube. It was far more civil than what I've seen so far. I didn't feel the need to drink during it. So that was an improvement.
I felt that I hate when people talk over each other. That debate was like The View.
Yeah.
And it's just unwatchable. And I think Trump came off really bad there. But at the same time, there are some like really, if you look at those moderators, some of their old tweets,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, like they're kind of stacking the deck. And maybe he felt like that was the only way was to bully through it. But I still think it would have been better if he would have just been like quiet for a while and then give him a hard one-liner, like he did with Hillary.
Yeah.
That was the masterstroke. That was back when he was politicking at his best. I'm not saying that's good for the country.
No, if you wanted to get the people riled up, he should have appeared on stage with a metal chair. I think that was one of the tweets that I saw.
One of the memes.
It's like, and the crowd goes wild because
Melania comes up and like distracts the moderator. He's just pow.
Well, the meme I saw it was Bernie Sanders. It's Bernie Sanders with a steel chair.
You think Bernie Sanders could get a steel chair over his head?
no,
No,
not a
but they
chance.
photoshopped it.
Well, one thing that has taken a back seat while Mr. Trump was having his convalescence was the war with China. But it seems like now that he's feeling better, he's ready to step it back up.
Bloomberg is reporting that the U.S. is exploring curbs on the Ant Group and Tencent payment systems. So this would be another form of sanctions, I guess, is the way to describe this. They're not saying they can't operate, just they can't receive payments.
They say that the fear is if this were to become ubiquitous in the U.S., then China would be getting a funnel of all payments happening in the U.S.
So you mean that foreign interests don't already own large parts of Visa and MasterCard?
Probably some people in China, right?
SoftBank doesn't own a lot of stuff already?
We're paywalled here. They did point out that the IPO is coming up for the Ant Group or whoever owns them, and it is like 30 billion, 37 billion, something like that. And they're very, very upset that this could interrupt that. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it seems like they should wait until after the dust settles on this for any kind of IPO activity.
Or after the election. We talked about last week, the IRS has changed some of their forms to point out that, hey, if you did anything with cryptocurrency, if you smelled a Bitcoin, you better fill it out on
You
your
better
tax
declare
forms,
that.
or they're coming for you. And that was to do with, what we consider lawful transactions. But when it comes to going after criminal activity with any sort of cryptocurrency, the Attorney General has released a paper.
Cointelegraph, I guess is how you say that, has... Cointelegraph, okay. U.S. Attorney General releases guidelines for enforcing crypto laws. This is, it's a little convoluted. It basically says if you're using Zcash or Monero that you're a criminal.
They really did say that. It's like, how do we identify criminal activity? Zcash and Monero. And one other. They mentioned one other. I can't remember
there was
what
a
it
couple others.
There was one I hadn't heard of before. But
Dash.
Yeah. So, not surprisingly, those are the ones that are the most anonymous. They don't like those. And
You don't have a right to privacy. Not really.
Obviously, the IRS were the ones that went after the stuff last week with the changes to their forms. They want to make sure they know every penny that you spend so they get their cut. And they are only doing that because they love this country and they want to see it operate at its best.
Listen, they need every tax dollar.
And that's going to be true after this year, but I don't think they're ever digging out of that hole. And sometimes they have a hard time finding people, especially if you're abroad. That if you leave the country, don't think that means you can stop paying taxes. By the way, if you don't know how that works, look into it. It's terrifying.
We'll have a story on that with Mr. McAfee himself in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the things that they would like to be able to do is to track you after you leave the country. How would they do that? Well, maybe by ignoring the law themselves.
Oh, I don't know. The IRS is being investigated for using location data without a warrant. So this is a Vice article on Motherboard. The IRS literally just bought it. It was like, hey, you got location data for this person? Yeah, that's a thing you can buy. So not technically illegal what they're doing, but Senator Ron Wyden and some other people, Elizabeth Warren, were like, hey, this is not within your operational mandate. And the IRS sort of pointed out, it's like, hey, we're investigating possible criminals for not paying their taxes.
So Ventel is a company that tries to get location data and tie it to an individual and then sell you that information. It's not technically the government doing it. It's kind of like the license plate thing.
Yeah.
They're kind of sidestepping it, but is that okay? Obviously, some of our lawmakers, and it's always the same names. We got like 5 people batting for us, and they're always the same people going after these companies. So I don't like their chances here.
Yeah, I don't like that. This is just sort of the normal MO. It's like, no, we're not doing that. This other company's doing it, and we give them money.
No one ever beats the IRS except Tom Cruise.
It wasn't really Tom Cruise so much as the Church of Scientology behind him.
He represents them, Krista. He is the face of them.
Yeah, that is really, like, that's the amount of power that it took. I mean, that's like the emperor versus,
They fought dirty. And as you mentioned before, John McAfee's Twitter is very entertaining. You ever check that out?
Yeah, I follow him.
He posts some stuff. There's like all these crazy posts from his history. There was one about whales. Have you ever seen that one? Google John McAfee and whales. Yeah, there's the one about the rumor about the sex worker he hired to perform a very
I think I might have unfollowed for that one.
very specific act, including a hammock, Krista, in a way that you've never thought about using one.
Krista, don't Google that.
Yeah, I watched a documentary about him a couple years ago, and like the documentary was pretty tame. Like it was trying to gloss over some of it. And I was like, that sounds depraved. Like
There was
a little
also
weird.
there was also a murder.
Yeah.
He was very closely involved with. So very entertaining man, but maybe he went too far this time.
Reuters reports that the U.S. has indicted the antivirus software creator John McAfee for tax evasion. The indictment went out of its way to clarify it has nothing to do with the McAfee company, but mostly it's to do with him hawking cryptocurrencies on Twitter and being paid for speaking engagements and other things like that.
Yeah, he sold the company a long time ago, and since then he's been living his best life.
It definitely seems like an adventure. I mean,
Yeah, really. For a while there, he was running for president from sea,
yeah,
so they couldn't track his location.
yeah.
Never a dull moment.
He was arrested in Spain a while ago, and so now he's being extradited.
And when it comes to facial recognition software, a lot of cities are saying that they're not going to do it. Other cities, Detroit, are doubling down and saying, yes, not only does this not work, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. And some cities may have just been lying completely for 30 years.
After years of claiming it does not use facial recognition software, the LAPD admits that it has been used 30,000 times since 2009. So finally, just the house of lies just collapsed, and the Techdirt author here has some sour grapes in the tone that they use. They're like, if a citizen was lying about this, they would be arrested for obstruction of justice. Here, it's a simple mistake to just lie about it repeatedly.
And they're actually having to go back through and backlog all the Freedom of Information requests and being like, oh, we're real sorry. We said we didn't have that.
Yeah, but it turns out they do.
Why don't people trust cops, I wonder?
You're probably wondering, what's the punishment going to be? No,
Nothing.
It's not going to be one. Stop that. It's like me with my cats. What am I going to do? They don't care about the water bottle anymore.
Of course we're using facial recognition technology. The technology is available. Why wouldn't we?
We are going back to the moon, and we're sending women this time. And you need to be really careful about that because, I don't want to be like get into the whole gender argument here. But I think as a country, it would be worse on us in terms of our mood, our mentality, if we had another challenger and it was all women.
Oh,
I think that would be rougher on us. Krista, am I being, too overly male there?
I don't think so, though. I think it's sad either way.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think when Challenger happened, there was that one school teacher, and that's what everybody focused on. That was like the real sad story. So you got to do some testing, right? But there's some questions.
Safety panel has, quote unquote, great concern about NASA's plans to test the moon mission software. the Ars Technica article author did a pretty good job explaining that. You remember that Boeing trip where Boeing just sort of tested each little piece of it individually, and then not only did it not make the rendezvous with the space station, the aircraft almost broke up a number of times. Well, it turns out that that same process is being used to test the software and individual systems for the moon mission. And so somebody's saying, wait a minute, have we learned nothing? Because the Boeing stuff really didn't go according to plan. We need to do end-to-end testing on this whole thing as a unit, not doing it piecewise, because the piecewise testing didn't uncover everything.
And then NASA, they released a response to that and said, we're totally doing end-to-end testing. And they went on to explain how they weren't doing end-to-end testing.
It makes sense if you're a software developer. It doesn't make sense if you're a general population person. But yeah, don't... Let's hope there's no human beings on board this thing the first time they send it up.
I think they're going to do... I think the second and third is human beings.
Okay.
But still... That's billions of dollars that we're just lobbing into the air and hoping for the best.
that one developer on the inside is like, I told that idiot product manager, I told him, and the whole thing exploded.
There was have you ever seen the documentary about the Challenger, where the company, like, they were on a conference call with the company and they were like, we have to put this up today, and the company was like, I wouldn't. And they're like, no, we have to. We've delayed it 4 times. We have to do it. Will you sign a document saying we can today? And they're like, we don't want to do that.
We want to replace those O-rings. We don't know if they'll hold up.
So, yeah, you don't want to see that again. Cuties. Cuties is a movie that has garnered a lot of attention, most of it negative.
It makes me think that we've all passed on. We're currently in purgatory and being evaluated for our continued existence.
I was reading a paper about, like, the odds that we're in a simulation. I'm kind of convinced at this point. But, yeah, Cuties is it's a movie about little girls having some sort of dance troupe. It seems to be overly sexualized. I've not watched it. I did see a couple of YouTube videos about it, and the clips they used were, pretty inflammatory. I agree that we should probably look down upon and or cancel Netflix over this. I don't know about criminal charges. That might be overstepping.
Netflix indicted by Texas grand jury over lewd visual material in Cuties. The clips that I saw, I wouldn't disagree with this, but I really got to wonder, like, how did this get past? Like, if they've got a story to tell about the bad things that are happening to these young girls, I think they could have done it in a way that didn't do this.
You get that girl from, you ever see all those To Catch a Predator?
Yeah.
She looks like she's 12 years old. No, she's fully grown. And she's got a voice like a little mouse. But no, fully grown woman. I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah.
Find them, pay them a bunch of money, teach them to dance.
Recreate the awful things. And also, if Honey Boo Boo, like, that whole thing was okay, then... because I see that as a kind of child exploitation.
Yeah, exploiting children, yes. But they're not going for that. They're going for, like, the pornographic.
That is a form of exploit.
I guess, but is it illegal? I mean, we have a set of laws.
For underage kids, though? Like, what are you arguing?
No, I'm saying it's not illegal for little girls to dance like sluts. Is it?
No. Technically, no.
Yeah, so yes, we should condemn this, but using the legal system, no.
I think that what was depicted in the Netflix thing goes so far beyond the pale that I don't think it could be even. I don't think dancing goes far enough to describe what it is.
Yeah, I watched some clips because I was curious, and I had to turn it off because I was like, this is lewd, even for, like, Cardi B.
But you're talking about, you're just interpreting the law after the fact. We can't have a legal system that does that.
Yeah. It's a mess.
I don't know. This is like, I realize this is like defending the child pornographers from getting their Apple devices spied upon. I understand that. But still, this could bleed into a lot of other things.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
I would like to think that their parents would have been like, no, don't do this, but
I bet
too much to hope for.
That is probably like a really uncomfortable, like, parent-teacher association meeting. Although they're not doing it now because of the pandemic, right? They're fine at home, not having to face the judgment of their peers the way they should.
Wow.
Mass surveillance. We tried it. Remember when we tried it? I mean, I'm sure we're still trying
We're
it.
still trying it.
It didn't work. It gained nothing. They recently did that report where they didn't catch a single terrorist from all that. It's like, oh, well, that was fine. It was a good exercise. Europe are trying to be better about that kind of thing.
Europe's top court confirms no mass surveillance without limits. Well, I've got some bad news for them about the Five Eyes countries, Germany especially, because they're already doing mass surveillance without limits.
That's one of the things they mentioned. They said that Germany is not in compliance and would have to make some changes.
Wasn't that the third or fourth ruling, though, that Germany is not in compliance?
Seems to move slowly.
Yeah.
Or not at all.
I bet the next loophole is going to be that they do the spying from embassies. So it's like, it's not Germany that's spying, it's those Americans in the American embassy. And it just so happens that the American embassy runs right on top of the main fiber optic backbone for all of Germany. Who knew?
Turns out we knew because they were doing that back in the
90s.
The Snowden stuff, too. Yeah. Well, EU lawmakers are also attacking the big tech companies. I guess they actually got started first. Let's give them credit.
I love this article. This article is so amazing.
They started the trend, and boy, the U.S. politicians just love it. Everybody does. They are, for once in a while, they actually get these tech leaders in a room and grill them. It's always entertaining.
The Guardian has the article. The headline is EU lawmakers ask Jeff Bezos whether Amazon spies on politicians. I don't know what the headline should have been, but it shouldn't have been that. What actually happened was Amazon had a job posting, and in the job description, it said, we're going to need you to monitor employees for attempts to unionize and organize. We need you to maybe go undercover, do that kind of stuff. But we also need you to monitor hostile politicians that are using the Amazon platform so that we can get a heads up on any action that a hostile politician might take. So, like, the job description literally said that. And so then the European Union was like, wait a minute. There's a job description here where you're going to keep an eye on enemy politicians? What does hostile politicians mean? And then the whole thing disappeared. And they were like, what? What are you talking about? No, it's... What? A hostile politician? I don't know. And then they just kind of played dumb.
Be a shame if someone were to see this record of you ordering a 5-gallon drum of lubricant.
That's what it seems to be. How insane is that, though, that they put that in the job description? Like, and it's like, first of all, Mr. Bezos, if employees want to organize and unionize, you cannot stop them. You cannot spy on them to stop them from doing that.
It's so obvious. And it really is, like life imitating art. All of these big tech leaders clearly think that they're above the law, but when they talk to the people in power, they are very, subservient, like yes sir, no sir, and but that's not how they think it goes, and they're probably right, because billions of dollars accomplishes a lot.
The job description is like, do you glad hand politicians? Can we stick you in with a bunch of politicians and you can convince them to buy ice from people that live inside the Arctic Circle or whatever? And I don't know.
You just described lobbying.
Yeah,
that's exactly how laws get written these days. France. Oh, you know what? We should have put this after the Cutie story.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't realize that at all. So France has figured out that the hottest things on YouTube, some of the biggest, click getters, and I bet a lot of them aren't using ad blockers, unlike our audience, are children. Children can't get enough YouTube, and boy, is it cheap and easy to use that as a babysitter. So there's all these channels that cater to children, but they're also usually hosted by children. And we have all these laws about how child actors get treated. Like, who takes care of their money, what can be done with it, how many hours can they work. But what about YouTube? It's the Wild West.
France passes new law to protect child influencers. There's nothing really bad here that I could go over this. France is looking at this and saying, okay, children are going to be popular online and make money. Let's set up stuff to be, stewards with the money that they make, because there was a couple, I guess, in this court case of child influencers who are making over $1 million a year.
There's the one kid that reviews toys. He makes way more than that, right?
I don't think he's in France, though.
Oh, no, he's in the U.S.
So,
and remember, again, this is in the U.S., but remember the parents that were doing practical jokes on their kids?
Yeah, they were. That was bad. That ended badly for them.
That was criminal, and it should have been. That was a child abuse. But what if your kid, you put a video up and it gets 100,000 views, and you're like, oh, let's make 5 videos today. And little Johnny might be a little tired. That's what they're worried about.
Yeah.
I'll say, how do you enforce this, though? Because, if you're working from home, just doing YouTube videos of your family around your house, how can they prove that they were all shot back to back? How many hours were worked in a day? How do they prove any of that?
That would be tough. I don't know. I mean, I suppose you have a caseworker or something if you suspect it.
Well,
won't be easy. Moving on to social media, we are plummeting faster and faster toward the black hole that is the election. And by the time you watch this, we'll be almost, 17 days out, 20 days out, something like that. And social media it's percolating to almost a boil at this point. And they're trying to figure out anything they can do to stop the madness.
Facebook has widened its ban on political ads as alarm raises over the election. You behave, young man, or I'm going to turn this ad system off. That's basically what Facebook is doing.
They'll never do that. That is their blood.
I haven't seen any. I have an ad blocker on, but I haven't really seen any political ads on Facebook. I don't know if that's just because I don't browse it very often or what, but maybe they've changed something this year.
YouTube ad revenue is way up as a result of political ad spending.
And they are cramming the ads onto our videos too.
Yeah. We've taken steps to limit that because some people were really annoyed by that, but there's a really interesting mechanic in the new YouTube ad system, and that is if you skip ads a bunch, it starts giving you ads every 3 minutes. So our videos are supposed to be an ad at the beginning and an ad at the end, but on some of the videos it literally is you skip the first ad and then 2 minutes later you get another ad, and if you skip that one, 2 minutes later you'll get another ad, and so on and so forth. So I think YouTube is experimenting on audiences.
Yeah. It's just going to be TV again.
Experimenting.
It's just going to be cable TV.
Yeah, once cable finally dies and there's no alternative, we'll have come full circle. The snake will have eaten itself, and we start again. The dark cycle. What will be the next YouTube? That's what we should get in on at first.
Floatplane.
We're too old.
If you'd like to support us, we have Floatplane and Patreon. ...
The other thing about Facebook is that they are clearly struggling to staff the moderators because, as we've learned, the moderators, they get PTSD basically within a couple of weeks. They watch some really horrific stuff, and it's hard to keep them working, especially during the pandemic. It's hard to keep them in an office somewhere. So what do? You turn to the robots, and things get weird.
Nudity algorithm wrongly blocked company's onion images, Facebook admits, and says the advertisements will be restored.
God, let's see the onions. They are. I can barely contain myself.
Canada's most sexually provocative onions.
Ad agencies, if you're paying attention, you need to come up with product photography that looks lewd but is in fact not, in order to trick the algorithms so that you will get free advertising from having innocuous images blocked.
Have you ever seen that Eddie Murphy movie? I can't remember the name of it, but they do they're an ad agency and they do an ad, and it's literally like a woman stuffing a whole banana in her mouth, and then she's got a pair of cherries and she just sticks her tongue between them. I don't know if we'll be able to get away with this.
Nice.
But yeah, they point out that the publicity they got from this outrage far exceeded anything they could have purchased from Facebook. So yeah, if you can score that, it's a big win. Facebook has said they're going to try to fix it, but I mean, I suppose breasts are what it thought that was, maybe.
I think, yeah.
But
stupid algorithm.
Well, they are similar. Breasts have layers, and you just you peel them back. It's just the same way.
Well, they got kind of a little wrinkly point going on there. I can see kind of, but like in the whole context of the entire image, when would breasts ever be arranged in that fashion?
Don't question the algorithm. The algorithm knows all.
Facebook is also probably in response to the election going hard on trying to weed out all of the biggest voices of disinformation. And one of the biggest of them all, of course, is the QAnon movement.
Facebook bans QAnon across all of its platforms, according to NBC News. The change is a significant escalation over its previous actions targeting QAnon, were the broadest rules the social media has put in place in its history. So this is millions of posts. So this is a lot.
I've never understood the QAnon thing. I don't care enough to really get into it, but I get a different answer no matter when I ask and who I ask.
The thing that I have heard and seem to recall from many years ago was that wasn't this like the 4chan Pizzagate meme? Like, wasn't that where it started?
It's very focused on Trump. They think Trump is doing a lot of stuff in secret and that the whole rest of the government is secretly trying to destroy him. And then it gets really weird with there is sort of like the child stuff, but I think not only are they now abusing the children sexually, they are also eating them.
Trump is kind of retweeting stuff about that right now, so.
Well, Trump is doing a lot of antagonistic tweeting. It's kind of his thing. And like we talked about last week, every social media company is moving to try and flag disinformation. Now, in the past, they've been tentative to go after Trump's tweets because he is the president. But it seems like now, more and more, they're getting more brazen about just being like, no, this is not real.
Facebook has removed a Trump post falsely saying that the flu is more lethal than the thing that's causing the thing that's creating the new normal. So he immediately tweeted again, of course.
Twitter did not remove the post. They did give it that, what was the name of the new thing? Bird song or something like that?
The label?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They add context to the tweet.
Yeah. So, but it made it obvious that that was not correct.
And then
he immediately tweeted, Section 230, rah!
Yeah.
On Twitter.
Rip Level
Back
1
and forth.
forums. if we
That's
reveal that.
I don't think he really understands what Section 230 is or does. I just think that
he just wants people to stop not giving him his way online.
That's just purely a swipe at Twitter so he can keep tweeting whatever the hell he wants.
Like, okay, there is a huge disaster in all of that we're talking about that has many, many subtle and nuanced layers to it. Set that aside for a second. Literally, our Attorney General is using the threat of the whole Section 230 immunity not to try to improve whatever that is. Because I will concede that there are problems with that on that side. But they're literally trying to use the Section 230 thing as a cudgel to get other things that are completely unrelated to civil online discourse. That is all that they're doing. It is transparent, and it is terrible, and it is dishonest.
That's unprecedented. I don't think the government's ever done anything like that.
Literally used one thing in order to get another thing, because it's like, oh, you're doing this thing that we could say is illegal, but we'll ignore that if you help us out over here. It's like, okay.
And one of the things that they are doing in terms of, getting back at these terrible tech companies is talking about antitrust and breaking them up. They're too big. And Facebook's argument against it is interesting. Remember, too big to fail? Facebook is apparently too big to break up.
Facebook leak hints at its defense against a government-ordered breakup. Instagram and WhatsApp supposedly are too integrated to leave. It's like, oh, this will just put us out of business because nothing works without any other component. Meh. Seems to me that's like, what was it, United Steel?
Given the requirement that they absolutely had to do this or go out of business, how many weeks do you think it would take them to get that done?
Like 1?
2 on the outside. They got to test it. So that was a leak. Somebody got the document, and this is their plan. If it were to happen, seems like it might. It won't happen probably before the election, probably not before next year.
Probably
And
not before the election.
the question is, will Biden have the same taste for blood when it comes to the tech companies if he gets elected?
I don't think so. I've been reading more about Cory Doctorow's plan for what to do with the big technology companies, and I don't fully understand what exactly he's got in mind with that, but it seems like a more interesting approach. It's like you use their giant juggernaut size against them rather than to try to break them up, which will probably not work.
This is a repeat of that other story that we already did. I'm going to delete it. For those of you following along in the one tab, this is a repeat story. TikTok. TikTok is a place that scares me because I'm old. I don't understand it. And these kind
Also the Chinese.
These kind of headlines are just, I'm just like, oh, it's a pit of darkness.
Scam TikTok profiles made $500,000 pushing scam apps to underage children on both Apple and Google app stores. So these are apps where you buy stuff, but you don't get anything.
Yeah, they kind of they said they were between $2 and $12, but once you get the app, it really doesn't do much, or it does things that are so basic that you already have an app that does that better. But these influencers were pushing them, and that was enough to sell quite a few of them. It's not allowed.
Linode.com/level1.
Would you call us an influencer? I don't know.
How's that going to protect you from TikTok?
No, I'm just saying, like what you said about, it's influencers pushing something, and that was enough.
Linode has some features.
You can get something out of Linode.
They're not a hollow.
No.
They're also way more than $12, but it's worth it.
Yeah, well, you could do the $5 a month plan. That'll do a lot.
And finally...
Oh, this one hit home.
Yeah, we are totally guilty of this. But I got to say, I think our audience, you can say what you want about their mental health, but they'll watch them.
YouTube apologizes for mocking long videos. This is really cut deep. Like it was like this person, they were 15 minutes into the video, I guess. That was the joke. And then it was like, all right, let's get started. And at least we're faster to the point than that. But I mean, come on.
Yeah, I've been thinking about my next video. I'm not going to be quick about it. I got a whole soliloquy I'm brewing, chat.
See, that's the crazy thing, is that a lot of our audience really does like that. And, with what we do, it is unusual to have as much of our audience as we have that are willing to pay for it on Linode, through the affiliate thing, or Floatplane or Patreon.
But I think that's the thing here is YouTube is bashing it because in most cases, they get the max return from those short, quick hits.
Yeah, and it's not that they're actually interested in just being a platform for creators. It's they want the thing that generates them the most money. And that's apparently giving you an ad every 2 minutes if you click skip ads.
Right. So YouTube wants you to go down the crack road, quick, heavy, high, but it wears off. We're more of like a nice, pure, slow heroin.
Of what, red pill? Is that the right color?
You'll never feel as good as
really
you do.
Mixing analogies here. I don't think the red and or blue pill had psychoactive effects.
I don't know, that mirror melted pretty weird.
That sound was also like a dial-up modem sound. I mean, that was pretty trippy.
It was a good movie. Can't argue with that.
All right, what do we got for tomorrow?
I haven't decided. It'll be business and something. Whatever is the smallest.
Oh, we're going to talk about the AMD news finally.
Oh, you're so excited about that. Krista, give us a AMD sycophant goodbye.
Goodbye. every picture of Lisa Sue that I've ever seen, she's always holding up and smiling. And I just looked at a lot of pictures. Yeah. I just looked at a lot of pictures of her for a patron drawing.
You should do a series of tweets where you Photoshop something other than the chip and between your fingers.
Oh. It should be like a potato chip.
It could be a variety of things.
It could.
Get started on that. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.